So that was a beautiful meditation. I was thinking about my heart. I hadn't heard a meditation where we specifically mentioned, appreciation of our heart. And somehow my heart is still going, even though it has a defect. There's these capillarities on the aortic valve that are supposed to open and close. Mine don't close right for some reason. It's a congenital thing, So, but so far there's no damage to my heart. It's just, the cardiologists are waiting for it to kind of dilate, which means it's getting weaker because there's too much pressure in it. And so far that hasn't happened. So I keep going back there every year to make sure, checking my blood pressure and all that and trying to eat healthy. But but just being aware of that, I've come to more of an appreciation for that, like 24/7 for 70 some years, That's pretty amazing. But then also that it's the source of our life force, is what gives us the gift of our heart, of our minds, and our breathing. So our body is a wonder, it really is a miracle that we are. Not miracle to walk on water, but to walk on the earth, And I always really appreciate when I think of deep relaxation, I think of sinking into our being, relaxing back into our being. And I've been reading this little book. It's called The Heart of Prayer by Rupert Spira. And I wanted to read part here where he talks about, it's in a section where he says, be without becoming, without being attached to becoming. And he quotes Rumi. He says, Rumi said, live in silence, flow down and down in ever-widening rings of being. As we sink into being, this is Rupert, our being is divested of the qualities that it derives from the content of experience and stands revealed as utterly intimate, yet impersonal, infinite being. The side effect of this sinking into the depths of being is the release of tension in the body and agitation in the mind. The mind and the body come to rest as an inevitable consequence of this self-abidance. Our suffering is relieved of its seeking and is revealed as peace and happiness. Our longing is relieved of its dynamism and is revealed as love. We do not really long for love. Our longing is already that love, albeit thinly veiled by the belief that there is something other than God's presence. Longing is the apparent veiling of love, or the appearance of the veiling of love. Love is the subsistence of longing. I don't know if you can hear me. Bruno's dreaming in the other room. Okay. I hope it's a good dream. Then he goes on, in the Sufi tradition, every sorrow is an echo in our heart of the great separation from which everyone longs to be healed. The Sufi is one who turns towards that sorrow and embraces it. The hurt that we embrace becomes joy. Gather it into your arms where it can be transformed. For the Sufi, grief, sorrow, and despair are not considered negative emotions or experiences to be avoided or necessarily transformed. They are considered invitations that God sends directly to our hearts, the voice of God calling us home. And then we can always, substitute Buddha nature or Buddha's being for God if we're not comfortable with the God word. I've gotten comfortable with it over the years. So in relation to that, I wanted to read just part of a poem I wrote called Love Itself. So Rumi says, flow down, down into ever-widening rings of being. The rings' vibration manifest our experience. They are the very substance of our experience, what our experience is actually made of. The rings expand forever, the essence of love and wisdom, the beating of the universal heart, revealing our shared being with all beings. So, being 75, I mean, there are few people here older than me even, 3 or 4 maybe, but we're all pretty old, except for Mary Jo here and maybe Lee. We're all getting up there. I've been thinking about death, and I wasn't planning to talk about it, but it just kind of comes up. You know, recognizing our shared being and thinking about that life force, you know. Deeply feeling the vibrations, the sensations of our breath in deep relaxation. It reminds me of a teacher, Kwang Roshi, who I've studied a couple of his books. He's in the Zen tradition, the Soto Zen tradition from Suzuki Roshi, where I began many years ago. And he had this phrase that Zen is the aliveness we bring to each moment. So more and more I'm seeing how that aliveness is our shared being through looking deeply and reading Thay's teaching and other Zen masters, you know. Feeling that aliveness. And just letting, you know, practicing to not limit the free expression of that aliveness seems to be the way to go, you know, the way to approach the transition that's coming. I feel grateful. I think we should all feel grateful that we have a human body that is wondrous as it is, and be grateful for it, for all the wonderful qualities, you know, we've inherited and can express and share. So, you know, in terms of sinking into that being and appreciating it from the depths, you know, looking deeply. There is an unconditional welcoming, you know, that comes when we're quiet, when we, you know, pay attention to the stillness and the silence. And Kwang Roshi had this phrase of how to use the breath, the aliveness of the breath, the sensations of the breath, as a way to, not to consciously try to deepen, but just to allow that compassion. He calls it the compassion breath. And he doesn't really define what it is, but because you can't really put it into words, but it's just an overwhelming, sometimes overwhelming feeling that nothing really can overwhelm the depths of our being, that it's just absorbing everything. And it's inviting, like he said, like Rupert said about the Sufis, looking at our suffering and fears as callings to us, calling us home, calling us to pay attention and to bring them into full presence so we can allow them to be transformed. So somehow I've come to more of a peaceful kind of resignation, you know, that when we die, there'll be this kind of this sense of maybe groundlessness. Like sometimes I'm just laying in bed and I'm wondering about that sense of groundlessness, because some people talk about the fear of death as the fear of groundlessness, you know. but it just came to me, not a new thought or not a new revelation really, but maybe a deeper revelation that we're in that groundless space all the time. We're never out of it. I mean, the fact that we're on the earth is just an expression of our being. We say the earth is ancient, but actually it's recreated every time we wake up in the morning. The earth is recreated. The world is recreated. It's made of our being. It's not there without our being there, So that's, to me, maybe one of the greatest, not conceptual proofs, but intuitive certainties that we all share that being. And many teachers that I've been reading now say, really put a lot of strong emphasis on Buddha's statement that when he had his great enlightenment, in the morning he touched the earth and said, I and all beings together attain the way. And that's a very short statement, but it's very deep. And anyway, we're all getting closer to that. I have that sense that we're all kind of in the birth canal to be Buddhas. And intuitively, I trust that saying, the Sufi saying, that all of our fears, all of our suffering are calling us home. And I'm just feeling grateful that we have this practice to continue on with that compassion breath that we can share together. Okay. So,
lovely.
We got lots of time.
So, Roger, that feeling of groundlessness reminded me of when I was going away to college, leaving my family for the first time.
Yeah.
And literally, I was lying in bed, holding on to the edges of my bed, as if somehow I wouldn't let loose. I couldn't let loose. I felt like I was being tossed into groundlessness. Yeah. It felt that way. And I was afraid.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we carry around with us all the time. When we're afraid of death, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
The solidity that we feel with earth.
Yeah. The solidity, or not really solidity, but the stability and the supportive unconditional acceptance is very, it's very stable, and it's it's timeless, it's, and it's all pervading, but it's always moving, and so we can't grab hold of it. We can't perceive it or describe it really. And it's easy, but if we're holding on to the idea of being a separate body mind, the fact of the speed of its moving and the power of its moving can be very scary if we're holding on, There was a Meister Eckhart was quoted in one movie I like called, I forget the name of it now, but he said, if you're scared of dying and you're holding on, you'll see devils trying to tear your life away. But the only thing that burns in hell is the part of you that doesn't want to let go of your life. But when you've made your peace and accept all that, then the devils are really angels freeing you from the earth. It was a chiropractor was telling this Vietnam vet who was having a death experience, was telling him, you need to start reading Meister Eckhart. Freeing us from the earth. And that doesn't necessarily mean we have to leave our body right away. Doesn't mean we become disembodied, but it can mean that we're freer to fully practice not limiting our life force, to just be in the body without the confines of the body, limiting us so much. Anyway, that'd be kind of a nice way to live, wouldn't it? Be like the leaf falling off the tree that's just carefree and doesn't care what happens. Just let everything go. Enjoy the ride to the ground.
Yeah, let's go that way.
Why not?
Why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was hiking in Alfie the other day at a state park, and I encountered a man with a really good-looking walking stick. It was taller than me. And I said something about, I like your walking stick. And he stopped me and he said, I have a question for you. Do you know how to get to heaven? And I thought he was going to say, do you know how to get to Route 271 or something like that?
Yeah.
And so I said to him, well, sure, I know how to get to heaven. I'm going to take the bus marked heaven. I'm going to get on that bus and ride it until we get there. He didn't quite know what to do with it. He quoted the Bible then a couple of times and sort of let me go.
Get to heaven. I like that. That's kind of an honest thing. I mean, really, what a nice, honest, and genuine and unconcerned question, you know? He was totally not worried about you thinking he was out of his mind, right?
Well, it's not the question I expected from a stranger.
No.
And that thing about the bus, it just came into my mind, you know. I mean, I did not skip a beat.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even know where that came from, but I thought it made just about as good sense as him asking me if I know how to get to heaven.
Yeah.
I think heaven is dreadful. I don't like the whole idea of heaven. It sounds so boring. Did we lose Lee? Did we?
What was that?
Lee seems to be gone.
No, he's here.
Oh, okay. I'm not seeing him.
Yeah.
Is there anyone next to him?
Timothy's next to him, and on my screen.
I can't see either one of those. Oh, gosh. Okay, now.
Are you on gallery? Put on gallery. Put your view on gallery. You should be able.
I should have it on gallery, but this is a different computer. Oh yeah. I can get it there. Hi everyone. This is much better.
So anybody else want to chip in here?
I want to hear from y'all.
Hi everyone. So I love that meditation. It was wonderful, and I've had a dry eye, and so I just went to that, and it was really interesting to have that opportunity to just isolate that one thing, you know, and think about, you know, this body that's getting older and wrinkled and and appreciate it, you know, for what it is and what it's been. And so yeah, I really appreciate that, and I appreciated your talk, Roger. It was really the whole idea of maybe not feeling grounded. I hadn't thought about it that way, and I really appreciate that that awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it'll be very helpful to me at a certain point. So it's good to see you all.
Yeah. There's a short video that Pema Chodron put out a few years ago about that. That's what made me start to think about the fear of groundlessness. And she has such a nice, compassionate, gentle and tender way of bringing up the subject of death. It's just a short video. I'll send it to you guys. She has some good stuff to say, but it's mostly her presence. Her presence and at ease with the whole subject is really heart-opening to me, anyway.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's one of her main emphases is, well, I always characterize it as you should let the rug be pulled out from under you. Let it happen. And then we can dissolve into our shared being. Right? sometimes it needs to happen with a jerk. I don't know why, but sometimes that's how it happens.
Mm-hmm.
You guys know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
Timothy, you look like a monk.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I am, well, I'm traveling solo. I've visited all my brothers and sisters on the East Coast, made really good connections with all of them, and my youngest daughter came down from Vermont to meet me in Massachusetts.
Oh,
There's almost 3,000 miles worth of driving over a month period of time. Today I did 311 miles from Asheville to Savannah, in a state park outside of Savannah. That meditation revives me. I am absolutely, my brain is like buzz. You know, I mean, I don't do anything physical, but I'll tell you, driving is like mentally exhausting and emotionally upsetting too. Where some people just don't know how to drive.
Yeah.
You know how to merge onto the interstate? You think I'm going to slow down? At 70 miles an hour, you gotta fit yourself in here. Blank, blank, blank. You silly human being. But the meditation was really good. It was reviving. You know, I don't feel quite so exhausted and all of that.
Have you been to the boardwalk in Savannah there? I was there a year ago.
Boardwalk in Savannah?
The Riverwalk?
Oh, Riverwalk.
Riverwalk,
oh,
yeah.
I've been there many, many times.
Yeah.
Having lived here for 7 years now.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yep. Yeah. It's a nice tourist place. I like it. I like going down there and seeing all the people from wherever doing whatever, buying, just having a good time. Yeah. I don't have too many conscious thoughts in my brain that I can put together, so it's great to see you all and just to be present with you. You're a main part of my life, this whole Sangha.
Yeah.
That's all.
Thank you,
Thanks, Timothy.
I still have a little time. If your brain feels like mush at the end of deep relaxation, I feel that I've succeeded.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my brain didn't feel like mush. My brain was saying, okay, you went this direction, go back and go in the other direction. Top to bottom and bottom to top. And I did not lay down because I woke up, I fell asleep and just barely woke up to get here on time today. And if I would have laid down, I'd be out. I'm pretty sure. So I didn't do that. I did the deep, just sitting in an easy chair with a little chair. So
Yeah.
but my body was saying, okay, now we went this way. Let's do this again in the other direction,
Mm-hmm.
So it was very good, though. Yes.
And you don't want to stop because you really get to a point where you really are pretty well relaxed. And I'm sorry there wasn't time for me to sing for you, but when Sister Chan Kong does those, the same type of deep relaxation meditation. Well, first of all, she tells everybody to keep your heads together and not your bottoms through your heads, and for obvious reasons. And then everybody's lying around in this huge room, and she sings, and her voice is just angelic. The first time I heard it, I cried, and I felt like I was being lullabied, and that's what she was doing. And so I can't, my voice is pretty well shot from what it was when I was younger, so, but I will still attempt it from time to time.
Yeah,
Right, Daniel?
it's beautiful when you sing. Yeah. We could sit for a few more minutes if nobody else has anything to say.
Yeah, Norma, if you could give us 3 minutes. Thank you.